What's going on, YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with some breaking news regarding The Division 2. So sit back, relax, grab that popcorn, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. But all of this news and more is on my Twitter page, X if you nasty. So follow me over here at Kamikazevondoom for all of the Division news, whether it be about Division 1, 2, 3, Heartland, Resurgence, or even the Division movie. I have everything shared on this Twitter page. So again, if you want all the information before I make a video here for YouTube, just follow me over there at Kamikazevondoom. But this was just posted from the developers themselves at The Division game, and it says, "Agents, we would like to provide you with some insights into our findings and the next steps that have been determined based on the feedback we received from the Phase 1 Project Resolve PTS." Now, just to give you a little reminder, all of these Project Resolve videos that I've been posting, even yesterday with that Lady Death build, all of those have been from this PTS Phase 1. These were all test builds that I was showing you that could come into the full live game. Now, we do know that Phase 2 of this PTS will start next weekend. So seeing that they are already making these changes based off of Phase 1 this week, and we are getting Phase 2 to test next week, these are all really good signs. So far, so good. But I have not read the developer notes, so let's see what's being nerfed and what's being buffed, shall we? I believe this is on their Trello board, and yes, it is. All right. So if you jump over to their Trello board, their developer notes will pop up right front and center. Now it says this is the Project Resolve PTS Phase 1 developer notes. Description. Hello, agents. We are immensely grateful for all of the feedback we received following Phase 1 of TU20 and Project Resolve PTS. Those are the same thing. And we want to share our findings and next steps based on the PTS. Weapons and talents. Oh, nice. They're going to have full answers to all of these. This is good. Let's see how long this thing is. Weapons. Then we have gear, conflict, dark zone, descent, gear lock. All right. This is going to be good. Okay. So here we go. First with the weapons and talents. Enhance accuracy and stability of some weapons. Our primary focus, yeah, I got it, Microsoft Edge. Get out of here, go home, you're drunk. All right, here we go. Enhance your accuracy and stability of some weapons. Our primary focus has been on performance rather than handleability. Yo, is that a word? Hold on. Handle ability. Hold on. Is this a word? Hold on. It is. Okay. The condition of being handleable. Okay. All right. Modifying accuracy and stability would result in diminishing the unique characteristics of each weapon, potentially leading to a homogenization where all weapons become identical. Yes. Instead, our objective is to ensure that certain weapons are harder to handle, but in turn offer greater power when landing those shots. We decided to refrain from implementing any additional changes now. However, we will reassess the situation following the release and consider potential adjustments. I'm sorry, people. Sometimes when I read these things for the first time, I'm like, who wrote this? Basically, all they're saying is that at this time, they're not going to change any accuracy or stability on any weapons. Because if you did that, it would create this very small skill gap where everyone could use any weapon and perform the same duties. Where, the FAL or the AK shoots slower, but it hits harder. And, something like the FAMAS or the CTAR shoots faster, but, hits less. They're saying that if we were to make, like, say, the AK and the FAL laser beams, that we would all go to those because they hit harder and it would be easier to hit all of our shots, which I completely agree. I think that touching any accuracy or stability on any of the weapons would just be stupid, especially when they already implemented these talents to help you with that, whether it be, stabilize or whatever. Okay, moving on. Mantis Exotic Marksman Rifle is too buffed and needs to be nerfed. Remember that they did buff a lot of the marksman rifles, and it seems the community really did not like the change to the Mantis. And the developers say, we agree with that notion, and it needs to be brought down. The changes will be available in the PTS Phase 2. All right, so they did nerf the change to Mantis. The Dr. Home exotic rifle changes were unnecessary. We have reviewed your feedback and determined that the Dr. Home requires a revision. Therefore, we will be reverting it back to its original form for PTS Phase 2. Wow. Ooh, okay. So Dr. Home change that everyone was getting all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over, because remember, it was just hit a target, and if anyone kills that target, everyone gets healed. It's seeming as if, it was a little too overpowered, and I wasn't even going to touch it until Phase 2, and it seems that it was so overpowered that they're just going to revert it back to its original form. And with that being said, I'm still not going to touch the Dr. Home. After that, we have, with all other weapon changes, the St. Elmo's Engine Exotic AR feels underwhelming. Who would say that? For one, the St. Elmo's Engine is the meta AR right now. It is the meta AR, meaning everyone and their mom uses the St. Elmo's Engine. It shoots fast, it has a high magazine size, and it shocks your enemy. So who would say that it would feel underwhelming with all these other weapon changes? Let's see what the devs say. We hear you and can confirm that we'll be leaving it as is for PvP. Good. The developers hear you and they don't care. They're still going to leave it like that for PvP. All rifles, hold on. We hear you and can confirm that we'll be leaving it as it is for PvP. With all other weapon changes, the St. Elmo's feels underwhelming. We hear you, but we're going to... Okay. We hear you, but it's going to stay the same. All rifles should be given a 30 to 50% buff to accuracy and stability. Wow. Who the F said that? Okay, let's see what the dev said. Buffing the handling of every rifle would risk diminishing the individual traits that make each weapon unique. That's the exact same logic that they were using for, changing accuracy and stability on all the other weapons. This potentially would lead to a lack of diversity, which is exactly what they were explaining in the other question. And then they go on further. Our main objective is preserving the state of the weapon handling to ensure a wide variety of weapons remain available. Therefore, we have decided to not implement any changes that would make the rifles too similar. It's the exact same thing they said earlier. Enhance accuracy and stability on some weapons. Accuracy and stability on rifles. It's the exact same thing. You should have just said on all weapon types and then just gave us that answer. It's the exact same thing. Next, it says concerns about the Nemesis, the Regulus, and the Scorpio exotics getting a bigger buff in PvP now that we can change that third attribute. Now, remember, they are implementing that all new exotic weapons can be reconfigured to change that bottom attribute. That's why I was showing the Lady Death with damage targets at a cover, the Chameleon with damage targets at a cover, Eagle Bearer. I was even testing the Regulus. I even showed the Nemesis, because I showed you that sniper build. And I showed you the Scorpio. That's funny. all of these things we did test, and they were all really nice. I would agree with that. But let's see, what does it say here? We are looking into nerfing the Scorpio, Nemesis, and Regulus in PvP only. Damn. Okay. But the Scorpio already doesn't. It's already been changed for PvP. It has a different septic shock talent for PvP and PvE. So nerfing it even more, I don't get it. The Nemesis, obviously, yeah, you could definitely do something about that in PvP because you can one-shot people even with like an all armor build with the Nemesis. Regulus, nerfing it for PvP, I don't see why, because you have to get headshots. So maybe I don't know. The only way to nerf that would be to nerf the headshot, part of it. And even still, that requires the user to hit all headshots. Where the Nemesis, I understand the nerf because you can shoot them in the toe and one-shot them. The Regulus, it's only deadly if you shoot them in the head. Only. And I can tell you right now on console, people, they can barely shoot you in the chest, let alone the head. I don't know. I don't think the Regulus even needs to be talked in this. It's been strong since its inception, and even still, you have to shoot headshots. Nemesis, yes. Scorpio, I'm scratching my head. I don't see why. They already nerfed the talent for PvP years ago, so why are they even talking about that? Next, gear. Brand set changes suggestions. Oh, thank you for your suggestions. However, we currently do not have any plans to change the brand sets. Our focus is enhancing the existing stats and not moving them around. Oh, okay. Basically, I see what they're saying here. The way it's written is just, it's all right. It's all right. I would have written this as community request brand set attribute changes to bonus, bonus sets. Because they're doing is they're changing the values of these bonuses. They're not moving bonuses around. And it looks like the community was asking to move bonuses around, and they're not going to do that. They're just going to enhance the ones they already have. And that goes right into this one, the armor regen scaling. Everybody was saying that armor regen was going to be the new meta for everything, because I was just showing people you could get around 200k armor regen per second with the PTS Phase 1 changes. And let's see what they said. We agree that armor regen buffs are indeed too significant. We have decided to implement adjustments to these buffs for both PvP and PvE. Holy shit. So they're changing it for both. Ah, man. To ensure a more balanced and fair experience for all players. What does it matter in PvE? What does it matter to the experience for all players in PvE if armor regen can go very high? What does it matter? It doesn't, is the answer. It should only be changed and adjusted for PvP. We'll see what these changes are next week. But that sucks, because now the solo players in PvE that like to do some crazy stuff solo, they're going to be a little let down by these adjustments. We'll see. Conflict changes. Unbreakable didn't need a nerf. Why is this under conflict? That's PvP. Okay. Okay. Because Unbreakable, the changes to Unbreakable were for the Dark Zone and Conflict, not just Conflict. So that's why it's confusing that it's under this one. Unbreakable didn't need a nerf. We will be reverting it back to its original version for PTS Phase 2. All right. So the Unbreakable nerf is now changed for PvP. Either add more turrets or revert the change. Holy crap. Let's see what it says here. The current implementation of the turrets did not achieve our goal in preventing spawn camps. Oh my god, so people were just spawn camping right outside the turrets. Considering the technical constraints that prevent the addition of more turrets, we have decided to remove them and explore different options. Damn, dude. That sucks so bad. If you didn't know, conflict, I mean, easily 80% of my PvP gameplay I show is from conflict. I enjoy conflict. However, that does not exclude the fact that some teams and clans love to spawn camp. I mean, it's known. It is so highly known. Same for Dark Zone. People like to spawn camp the checkpoints and the safe houses. In conflict, they spawn camp. It's just a known fact, and the way that they spawn camp is ridiculously toxic. I'm talking shooting skills and other things into the spawn, and you appear and die instantly. Those kind of things. So whenever they were adding turrets to those spawn locations, initially I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, because then they can't spawn camp us because the turrets would shoot them. Well, that wasn't true, because the way that they set the turrets, it's still right outside the spawn. So all the enemies had to do was surround that turret, and as soon as you saw someone leave the spawn area, you could kill them before the turret killed you. So all it did was push the spawn camp out just a little bit further, but people were still spawn camping, so it didn't change anything. Now, the fact that they are not even going to add more turrets, but they're just going to remove it completely and just keep it as it is horrible for conflict and horrible for the PvP community. What this is going to do is advertise more spawn camping. You can't sit here and say, we're going to change spawn camping, we're going to prevent spawn camping, and then say, oh yeah, we're reverting all those and just going back to the way it is. Because what you just did is you promoted spawn camping. You told all of your players in the community, hey, there is spawn camping in conflict. We are trying to fix it, but we can't. So we're going to revert it back to the way it is, which was toxic spawn camping. So all you're doing is promoting more spawn camping and saying you can't fix it. This is crappy. Exploring alternative options is good. However, there are not many other options you have, because conflict is a arena-based PvP. It is one map with 2 different spawn points. So once you have the teams on those spawn points, that's it. So unless they can figure out a way to add more spawn points, I highly doubt this will ever get changed. Okay, moving on. Dark Zone. And just so everyone knows, this Unbreakable revert, so they're not touching Unbreakable. This Unbreakable revert is for conflict and the Dark Zone. This should say PvP/conflict, and this should say PvP/Dark Zone, or say PvP/conflict and Dark Zone, because all of these are PvP. Next up, we have Dark Zone, the Rogue activation timer. All right, so this was for those non-invaded Dark Zones. Remember that for the non-invaded Dark Zones, they wanted to promote more of a PvE feel. So they made it to where if you wanted to go rogue, it would take 5 seconds of you holding down the rogue for it to actually proc. And everybody was like, that is way too long. Just sitting there holding your button for 5 seconds, showing everyone around you you're about to go rogue, is not smart. And, well, let's see what the developer said. They said the timer to set up to stop players from going rogue near you. The timer is set up to stop players from going rogue near you. To see how a shorter timer would function, we will be adjusting it to 3 seconds. Okay. The way it is worded is just wrong. So they're lowering the rogue activation timer from 5 to 3 seconds because their initial thought was if it takes you 5 seconds to pop rogue around somebody, that gives them 5 seconds to run away, which is true. So now it's going to be a 3-second timer. Again, even 3 seconds, I mean, think about that. 1, 2, 3. Like you have to sit there and everyone can see the rogue circle above your head filling up. So I don't know. I still think it's I don't know. Because before it was less than a second to pop rogue. So maybe just make it 2 seconds. 1, 2. Boom, rogue. I don't know. We'll see. Descent. Descent changes. Oh boy, descent changes. Now, before I talk about this, let's just review what the descent changes were initially for PTS Phase 1. If you remember, they are adding caches to the NSA station so that you can buy things like exotic caches and such like that from the NSA station. They also said it would be shortened the time to reach the Nemesis, because right now, if you do it the fastest possible, you have to be on like loop 5, but they're going to make it to where you can do it in 4 loops. So what they're doing is they are increasing the heat gauge per room for descent to reach the Nemesis quicker. And what else did they say for PTS Phase 1? That they were cycling the talents, that they would start doing a talent cycle to promote more of a different play style throughout these cycles. So let's see what they said here. Okay. First thing, it says suggestion to add reconstructed caches to the NSA station at a high price. It is a great idea and we are committed to implementing it. The cost of these caches will be very high. Now, just so everyone is well aware, these reconstructed caches give you a named item. It could be any named item, and it gives you a named item blueprint. They are not the same. So you could get a Matador from the cache and then get like a Scalpel blueprint. You could get a Carnage from the cache and then get a Rail Splitter blueprint. You could get a Zero F's chess piece from the cache and then get a Hollow Man blueprint. But what they did is they added all the named item blueprints to Descent. And the only way to get those blueprints are from these reconstructed caches. So what they're going to do is they are going to add an option to the NSA station for you to purchase these reconstructed caches. So if you do enjoy Descent, but RNG just won't give you these caches, as long as you are farming Descent and you get those NSA shop, tokens stacked up, by the time this next update comes out in February, you'll be able to buy all of these reconstructed caches and then get all of those named item blueprints guaranteed. I myself am still farming Descent because I want to get the Emperor's Guard blueprint. That's the rarest blueprint in the game because that's going to be the only blueprint that you can craft an item with double armor regen. So I'll make a video on that whenever I do get the blueprint, but we'll see. But them adding the reconstructed caches to the NSA shop is a very smart idea. As far as how expensive they're going to be, yeesh, who knows? All right. Next up, it says, even with the session's length change, it still takes too long to reach the Nemesis. Now, remember, I just explained that they lowered it from 5 loops to 4 loops. Let's see what they're going to do now. The developer said, our intention is to gauge the impact of the current changes in a live environment. Based on player feedback, we will make any necessary adjustments in future title updates to ensure the best possible experience. Right now, we want to refrain from further shortening the session length as it could lead to frustration due to the waiting time between rooms and travel time. Interesting. So they're not going to make any other changes. So the lowering from 5 loops to 4 loops to reach the Nemesis is going to still be active when this update goes live. Now it says, don't reduce the number of talents. Remember, I said that they are putting the talents in a cycle. They're going to enable and disable certain talents for a certain amount of times. They have not made it clear. Let's see what they say. It says, don't reduce the number of talents. The implementation of the talent change in PTS Phase 1 was not fully completed as the UI with the talent lists available in rotation was missing. To ensure that players are aware of this current rotation, a comprehensive UI presentation will be added. We agree that 1 week intervals might be too long between rerolls. We'll explore the possibility of reducing this between rerolls. What? 1 week intervals. I'm gonna test the descent in phase 2, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this, because basically what they're saying is they're gonna lock in certain talents for a week, and while you're doing descent for that whole week, you only have those talents you can use, and then I guess by the weekly reset, they'll just rotate the talents around. Interesting. And finally, gear lock. Now, this has been a controversial topic from the PTS just because a lot of people like to be able to swap gear while in combat. Now, what do I mean by that? There are different techniques, okay? There is called a hot swap technique, where you can use something, and while you are in combat, you could switch that item with something else and, take advantage of that. For instance, something like the Incursion, okay? In the Incursion, I highly recommend using a striker build with the St. Elmo's and a ACS-12 or rock and roll shotgun. However, to some players, what they do with those striker builds is they will use a ACS-12 or a rock and roll shotgun, get the stacks up, and then swap that weapon to something else, whether it be an SMG, a rifle, what have you. But the thing is that once you have those stacks up, you don't need that shotgun anymore, and then you could use a different weapon with different ammo type. That way you don't run out of ammo. So that was, just an example of a hot swapping technique, okay? So with the new implementation of gear lock, what they're saying is even if you're in combat in any form, you will not be able to change your weapons, your skills, your gear, nothing. So let's see what they have here. Gear lock. All right, dude, this is a long one. Okay. Let's see what they have to say. Gear locking has generated mixed opinions, so we would like to provide further insights into our motivations. The Division 2 is a tactical shooter, meaning that strategic planning and decision-making play a significant role in the gameplay. One aspect of this strategy involves choosing and committing to a specific gear item before engaging enemies. Oh, geez. Allowing players to swap gear during combat would diminish the tactical nature of the game. It would also introduce complexity, as players would need to be aware of the mechanics of their current gear as well as the other options in their inventory. Meaning, if they kept it the way it was, you could have different gear on your character waiting to swap to try to take advantage of multiple sets at the same time. I see where they're getting at with this. So let's see. While some players may excel at managing this complexity, we believe it would make the gear system more difficult for a majority of the players to understand and engage with. Meaning that hot swap mechanic, even though it's been in the game since the game came out, only a small percentage of players even understand or know how to do that mechanic. So them changing it and locking your gear every time you're in combat, they're basically eliminating hot swapping at all, and they're eliminating that skill gap between people that could do the hot swaps and people that couldn't do the hot swaps. That way it kind of lowers that skill gap between players. Okay, not bad. Additionally, balancing the game's difficulty becomes more challenging, as we would need to consider not only the available builds, but also the potential talent combinations that should not be possible during combat. However, we acknowledge that in certain situations, preventing loadout swapping could be overly restrictive. As a result, we have decided to remove the loadout block for rogues, which was implemented in PTS Phase 1. Okay. So it says, as a result, the only thing they've decided to do was remove the block for people that go rogue. Because remember, they said once you go rogue, you can't change your stuff. And a lot of people, if they're fighting up against people with weapons, typically they'll go with like decoy or like a, whatever, a pulse. But then maybe if they're going up against status effects, they might want to change that to a booster hive, or maybe, they want to switch to like a riot foam or a defender drone or whatever. And they can't do that while they are rogue because everything was locked. And they are removing that block. So now whenever you go rogue, you can still switch all those things. I mean, that's a good switch. That's a good change, because a lot of people that like to go manhunt or like to, try to beat the manhunt records, they would have to have the exact same loadout top to bottom for the entire engagement. And there are so many people that like to switch weapons, switch skills, do things like that. So I like that. That's a good change. Now, what's it say for this part? We ask you to concentrate your efforts on testing it in the following specs during Phase 2. Gear lock while in combat, regardless of game mode, remains as it is. Gear lock while in conflict remains as it is. Gear lock while rogue will be reverted for PTS Phase 2. Additionally, we have introduced following quality of life changes. You will now be able to switch grenades. You will now be able to switch gear while at the shooting range. Yes, that was so annoying when testing stuff, is that it would say you're in combat in the shooting range. That is a great, great quality of life change. Thank you. And then it says you will now have a 1 minute grace period where you're allowed to switch your gear after joining a different player's session. Dang, dude. So you have to join, and within 1 minute, you're like, all right, guys, what build do you need? All right, let me switch. Ah, damn it. It's been 60 seconds. All right, just send me another invite. Let me go switch my gear. That's going to be annoying. Now it says, thank you for partaking in the PTS Phase 1, and please do keep your thoughts coming, as community feedback has always been helpful for us in making the necessary adjustments for the upcoming content. Until next time, the Division 2 development team. All right, so what did we learn from this long list of developer notes? Well, let me just go through it super fast. Okay. They are not changing any accuracy or stability on any weapons, because that would completely mess up the diversity of weapons. They are going to monitor the snipers, and they are going to change certain buffs. Specifically, the Mantis is under review and the Nemesis is under review. But for all of you White Death users, hey-oh, let's go. The Doctor Home will be reverted, so no healer gods out there. Sorry. The St. Elmo's will stay the same in PvP. Remember that they lowered it from a full magazine of shock to a half magazine of shock. And they are looking at the Scorpio, Nemesis, and Regulus for PvP. Interesting. They will not change any brand set bonuses as far as their positioning. However, they will be changing and tweaking the values of those bonuses. They will be scaling Armor Regen down. Remember that they buffed it for Golden Gear and Heligard, and I showcased both of them, and they were amazing, but they are going to lower it, so we'll have to test that next week. For PvP, they are not going to nerf Unbreakable. They are removing the turrets from the spawns for conflict, and they are lowering the rogue activation timer for non-invaded dark zones. In Descent, they will be adding a reconstructed cache to the NSA station. They are not changing anything for the heat gauge for the Nemesis right now. And they are currently going to have the talents on a 1-week interval. As far as gear locking, everything will stay the same, except for you will be able to switch grenades. You will have a 1-minute grace period when joining other players, and you will be able to switch gear while in the firing range. However, gear lock will still be locked in combat regardless of your game mode. Gear lock will still be in conflict, and gear lock will be reverted when rogue. All right, that is it. We will be testing this next weekend for the PTS Phase 2 of Project Resolve. Remember that next weekend, we are going to get the new gear, the new weapons, the new brand sets, the new gear set, and the new exotics. So we are going to have a lot to test next weekend. But all of this information and more is on my Twitter page at Kamikazevondoom. So make sure you follow me over here for anything Division related before I make a YouTube video. I know that this was a long one, but those were some pretty lengthy developer notes. I hope you learned something. If you felt you did learn something or found something interesting in today's video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Support the channel by subscribing. We do Division content every single day. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. And finally, shout out where you're from. It's always cool to see where you're from. All right, I am Kamikazevondoom. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.